Welcome back to Comfort Breeds Complacency. This is episode 17. Today I'm going to be joining my dad here. I'm going to be doing a number of solo podcasts, just going over my Africa trip from Egypt all the way down through the 9 countries to South Africa. I'm going to do one episode per country, basically, just going over all the things that couldn't fit in the weekly or videos I put out on YouTube as I went through for each country. So if you want to check those out, those are on my YouTube channel too. There's 10 videos going through all 9 of the countries I went through and then my Kilimanjaro climb. So if you want to check those out, you can. And today we're going to go over basically the start of my trip in Egypt. My parents, my mom and dad were here and met me in Egypt for the trip, so it was nice to have them out there. But we're just gonna kind of go over the first country, and the start of the trip. So I had been planning this trip since I was in the winter. I started, right?
It was, yes.
Yeah, it was I don't know, probably right around Christmas is kind of when I was starting to think about it. Maybe before Christmas, actually, into October last year, November. I was in France visiting my girlfriend Tasia. She was out playing rugby out there, so I was out visiting her, and I had my bike out there, so I did a lot of cycling training out there. And I remember I was going back there after New Year's, so I left my bike, Old Stubborn, out there, and then I left from there to go to Egypt. But I was planning this for quite a while. I guess it came from probably the biggest cycling inspiration as far as ultra athletes is Mark Beaumont. He's the one he has a record for Cairo to Cape Town, and he's done he has a record for around the world, everything, but he's done this exact same route from Cairo to Cape Town. So I kind of based it off the route I took and planning and everything. So planning, it started in October-ish, and then I was looking for sponsors and all those things leading up December, January, February. We had some lined up, and then they backed out right before the trip. So it was just self planned and funded, and I was completely solo out there besides my parents at the very start of the trip, and then had one friend visit me in Kilimanjaro, but we'll get to that on the Kilimanjaro one. But yeah, it was just setting up the first few visas. I had to get my Egypt visa, and I had to line them up specifically because they're only good for, let's say, 30 days. So I had to get all these visas for all these countries. So the first one was Egypt that I got before I left, and you guys had to get that too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then I had to get Djibouti, Saudi Arabia, things like that. So
The Sudan one wasn't possible, was it?
the Saudi one?
No, Sudan going through
Oh, Sudan. Yeah. So my trip was originally supposed to be only on the continent of Africa, leaving from Egypt, going through Sudan, then Ethiopia, and all the other countries. But Sudan's at a war right now, a self-conflict there, and I couldn't get a visa to go through Sudan. It was the only country I couldn't get one for as a Canadian at this time for crossing land borders. You could fly into Port Sudan, which is one city on the coast, but you can only fly in and out of there. So I had to plan to go through Saudi Arabia, and this only happened like a month before I was leaving, where all this.
I know you were disappointed because you weren't going to be able to go straight down through Sudan, but in hindsight, it really proved experimental. Like the adventure was really accelerated by detouring through to South Africa, to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, and crossing the Red Sea, and I'll get into that here. But just so instead of going straight down Africa, I had to cross over to Saudi, go down Saudi, and then back into Africa. But that was basically the route and where it all started from. And it's always a little hard and daunting leaving your loved ones for a number of months at the start. I didn't know how long it was going to take. I was thinking roughly between 60 to 90 days was my goal, but obviously you don't have an exact idea of the roads and everything like that. So I just started packing everything up in France in end of March, and got everything packed into a big bike box. And my girlfriend Tasia took me to the airport in Marseille, and I flew from Marseille to Spain, Madrid, and then Madrid to Cairo, Egypt. And then right upon landing in Cairo, we realized, or you guys had got there earlier that day.
Yeah,
One day earlier. You and Mom got there one day earlier, or earlier that day. So you had checked into this little hotel by the pyramids in Giza, and I got there later that night, probably 8, 9, 10 p.m. And I realized that my bike, Old Stubborn, wasn't there. It was the one piece of equipment I need, and it wasn't there. It was left in Madrid. I had an air tag in it, and it showed that it was left in Madrid. So that was frustrating, trying to deal with the Egyptian people at the airport right away when you get there.
Especially when you knew exactly where it was to the foot, and then the authorities, you couldn't get there. You had to circumvent their legalities. And
So when you get there into Egypt, they have these big long lines that go through these custom booths, but they're only like 2 people filtering in hundreds and hundreds of people. And the first thing that was weird is when I got my passport stamp, they had the wrong date of stamp on the passport. So it said I arrived on I arrived the 25th of March, and it said I had arrived the 15th of March.
Right.
So right then and there, 10 days off my Egypt visa were going to be gone, because I wasn't leaving from that same airport where they could fix it and all this. I was leaving from, it was called Safaga, this little town on the border where you cross with the ferry to Dubai, Saudi Arabia. So I knew they weren't going to understand that they had made a mistake at the airport. They weren't going to think that. They would have thought I actually arrived on the 15th. So that was the first kerfuffle. And then trying to deal with finding my bag. There's hundreds and hundreds of people around, and there's no authorities to really help. It's just one guy with a piece of paper, and you write a claim, and then you never know if it's going to see it again. So then I had to just take the van to the hotel you guys were at, and just kind of wait and hear from the baggage people, and trying to talk to the ones in Madrid. You're talking Spanish, and then they're in Egypt, and they're trying to talk back and forth. It just was a lot of nonsense trying to get the bike there. So I had to just kind of basically leave the bike for a couple days until it got there. I went to your hotel, and you were at a place right by so you fly into Cairo, and then you go through Cairo to the pyramids at Giza.
It's about 11 kilometers from Cairo to Giza.
And Cairo is one of the biggest cities in the world. I think it's top 5, one of the biggest cities. So
22 million.
What did you think of the driving as soon as you got there?
It's ridiculous. You have to experience it. You have 5 or 6 lanes, everybody speeding and honking, and then you have a mix of a donkey cart or a camel right into traffic, all heading in the same direction. It's just wild.
Yeah, and they don't honk to say like, watch out here, or you did something wrong. There they honk just to let you know they're coming. They're not stopping. They're coming no matter what, and they just honk to let you know they're there.
Yeah.
Everybody's driving aggressive, but to be fair, I didn't see any crashes, nothing.
No, it's controlled chaos. That's what it was. It's amazing how it works, but it all works.
Yeah, I don't know how they. Yeah, it's weird, but yeah, there would be donkeys and carts. And anyways, I drove from the airport that night, had a shuttle to the airport to the hotel, and then we got to the hotel, and basically I went to bed right away that day. And then the next day, they're like these rooftop they're leveled hotels, and then they always have a bar or something on the rooftop, a restaurant type of thing where they give you breakfast. And I remember walking up there. It was the first time I saw the pyramids, or right by them. What did you think of the pyramids there?
That was so shockingly beautiful. Like, to see these 4,000 and 5,000 year old structures just standing in front of you, and the people all and the tourists all seemed to be busy going about and enjoying them. And then seeing the locals, how they service the tourists, it was just an amazing experience. It was one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember before going, I told you I was starting there, and I know you'd always want to go there, but you were kind of debating going because it's a far ways and this and
Yeah,
that.
well, I'd been reading about it for the last 25 years. National Geographic, National Geographic always had issues on the kings
The
and their
tombs
and
and
tombs and the tombs of the kings and all their amazing structures. And I've always been fascinated because they would explore and find bits and bits, and then next year's article, National Geographic would produce it. So it caught my interest, and for 25 years, it was always a spot that I thought I'd love to see.
hmm
And when it happened and came to fruition, I was just blown away. It was just one of the greatest experiences of my life.
yeah. Well, I was saying, like, I remember talking before going, and you and mom were debating going because it's far and it would be a short trip and this and that. You had just gotten back from a trip a bit ago, like a month before, right? So I remember you talking about that. But yeah, I think if you have the opportunity to go and there's a reason to go, like I said, you could always go back at a different time. But I'm going now to start there. You may as well just go. Like, you don't regret going.
No, it was a wonderful opportunity, and to understand the culture, a culture that is historically very, very interesting.
Mm,
The Valley of the Kings and all the royalty back then, and
the
the
Sphinx.
Mediterranean and North Africa, Egypt area. There is so much history. It's like the beginning of really civilization and the historical history behind their cultures, right? So it was very, very interesting. It wasn't a day that went by that you didn't learn something very significant,
hmm
very, very significant, especially in the building of the pyramids, especially in um, the culture and how they serviced royalty back then. Royalty, the king, queen was everything, and their lineage was everything to them, right? So when it came time to build a pyramid, a lot of history said it was built by strictly slaves, but it was not. They know now that there was a lot of artisans, very talented stone uh, workers and bricklayers and uh, artists of all types that went into actually the completion of a pyramid,
Yeah.
because it took years and years to come about. But it was kind of seasonal because they had to bring in their quarries were nearby to get their materials from, but some of the quarries were 600 or 700 kilometers
Yeah.
away.
300 miles, 400
Yeah,
miles. Yeah.
and they had to float those granite blocks. These were 5 and 6 ton blocks
Yeah.
down the river up to their site, and they had to do it during flood stage. And during flood stage, uh, all the locals aren't really working, farming the Nile basin where they get their food, and they're not really working. So what they did is they worked on the pyramid for the king and queen.
Mm.
So that's where they got a lot of their labor. It wasn't just slave labor year round.
Yeah.
So it was a seasonal effort, and it worked perfectly for them.
Yeah. 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 They're mysterious for sure. So we when we went up and you'd stand next to the blocks and they'd be taller than you are, just the bottom ones, right? And then
Yeah.
to think that they're all laid like that and aligned to perfect north, south, east, and west, and all different things. Pretty.
Their understanding of astronomy and their understanding of structure was amazing.
Yeah.
They're still trying to figure out
Yeah.
how
Nobody
they
really
did,
knows.
right, how they cut these blocks, these 3 and 4 ton blocks. It's one thing to cut a block of limestone out and get it smooth. But then when you fit them both together, when you can't put a piece of paper in between them because they're so perfectly cut, that is amazing. They
Yeah.
didn't have lasers, they didn't have electrical saws or anything. This was all chipping and block
Yeah.
sanding.
Yeah. They are. Yeah. They're weird. Did they line up to what your expectations were, seeing them from the books, or were they bigger or smaller? What do you think?
My expectations,
Yeah, or what you've gathered from
oh,
reading on them.
I had no idea of the technical side that was needed to go into a pyramid. Just the angle, the 15% angle, each block in the base had to be cut at a 15% angle
Yeah.
to start the shape, the
Yeah.
structural base shape.
And then build it up.
And they knew exactly to the inch when they both met at the top of that angle, that pyramid, how tall it would be, how much volume they would need, how much quarry rock. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
And this was 4,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it was like, yeah, it's kind of strange because we were staying in kind of the old Giza, where it was like
Yes.
more locals, and we were right by where the camels all can go in, because basically it's like a big park almost that's like fenced off the whole surrounding area, and then each morning they open the gates and these camels and locals go in with their camels, and they're the ones who you can get camel rides from, and the horse and buggies and everything, and then the locals have to go, or the tourists have to go to a little booth and pay and then go through this gate entrance, right? But it's not like Disneyland or something where you'd have this big grand entrance where you know where it is. You're kind of walking around and you don't even know where to go, really. It's just camel poop on the ground and locals trying to sell you stuff and grab you and trying to get you to buy things, and then everybody's got a better deal, this or that, this or this. It's very like tourist kind of, right? But even the road where we got the tickets in the booth there, right up the road's just dirt and gravel, rubble, like garbage. It's not like it's well maintained in that area, right? But then you see all these tour buses that come in with loads of people, tourists that park, and they go in right into the gates, and then they get out and you walk around. But inside that gate's a little nicer. They got a little road, but I was like, I thought they'd kind of have you stay in certain areas, but it's all just a big desert and you can walk wherever you want around. There's like, once you're in the gates, there's no like rules really. You just go around.
It's true. You would think because it's a world historical site that the government would control and prep it a little better, but it's still pretty primitive according to North American standards and European standards. Very primitive. But that's the culture. Their culture is thousands of years old, right? 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, and the Egyptians 10,000 years old. So they're used to doing things differently.
Yeah.
And one of the big things I realize is how they barter. How they barter. Their whole life is about bartering, exchanging
Yeah,
money for services.
their
And
prices swindle if you change. If you, I'll give you two for this one, and if you, I don't want that. Well, I'll give you a better deal here. This,
it's
yeah,
it's amazing. You ask anybody that's toured Egypt or the area, that they're kind of the kings of bartering, right? They know, and they have a bottom line where they will not go any further, and they'll turn away. But until that line comes, they're pestering you and trying to get you to.
I had a lot of that all throughout Africa. yeah, they're just desperate for sales and things, right? So
Yes.
they'll try and, but they're all selling like the same thing. They all make the same little magnets and all the same shirt.
Mm.
I did find like where we were in Giza, that area, it's definitely more tourists. Like that's where you'll see other white people and
Mhm.
different tourists from Europe or North America, things like that. And we went one day to have a meal at like a nicer hotel. It was off where we were. But I remember even just we had to go back to pick up the bike at the airport when it came. So a couple days later it came and we had to take a bus back out. But going out there in the day, you could really see the buildings, like the apartments and things where people live. They're right beside each other, like all beside each other. And then you look down the roads, and besides the main road, lots of them are dirt roads, and it's just chaotic. Just so loud and busy, and the fumes and everything. It's just
Mm. It is their culture in areas like that that are impoverished. Their culture, they don't have the opportunities as the rest of, like most of the free world, that North America. So you grow up in a family, and if your parents are stonesmiths, you become a stonesmith, and you keep that culturally going. And they're living like if you had animals and you were kind of a farmer, or and you lived closer in city like in Giza where you used your donkey and your horse and your camel to service the tourists and that. Well, their culture is they would keep their animals on the bottom floor of their house. They would live in the second floor, and then the relatives, the children after marriage, would live in the third floor. So animals were very, very well provided for because they needed them either to barter for sale or to use them in their service
yeah,
of people, right? So that was shocking to me because I didn't grow up in a culture like that and I couldn't imagine. And when I was there and just being there in the heat and the smell of what's under you, your
yeah,
floor, is really eye opening. It's like, and this has been going on for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years,
yeah.
that kind of culture and that kind of,
Yeah, the camels were like we said right down our road there. So yeah, as soon as you'd come out our little motel hotel thing, it wasn't like super fancy. It was just like a good location you could see the pyramids from. But they had yeah, the camels right out there. So yeah, we'd go up into the kind of park area, and in there one day we got like a horse ride, kind of took us around. They whipped the horses and whipped the camels, and they'll take you around and in the buggy. And then yeah, we did. We went into one of those pyramids, a small one. Which one's it? Meza. What was that one called?
there's two or three of them that
It
we
was the
went into.
small out of the big, out of the main three. There's Giza, Kofu,
Kofu is it
or
one
the
of
other.
them.
Yeah, so it was the smallest one of those. We went to go down in, and you kind of duck down a long kind of step walkway. You have to crouch down and go way down into the tomb area, and they
Hmm.
show all the kind of, it's like a maze down there. All the how they've dug it all out, and you walk through different areas, and
Oh,
you find the
it,
tomb at the bottom, and
yeah, and this it was all hand labor. They didn't have drills and they didn't have lights back then, and they were going down 200 and 300 feet
but it's still
into
it's built. Yeah, it's not like you go into the pyramid and then go up.
right,
Like there are probably ones like that too, but this one was ground level, and you go
and they go
down into
down.
it, so it's
So
under the pyramid.
right, it was like this big quarry that they were all built on, and they had to cut down in through the rock, the limestone rock, and a lot of their engineering was amazing because they have all kinds of shafts that's spears off, all to um, as a protection to the tomb, where it would divert people that were trying to get to the tomb in the riches. That it was a false way. It was they couldn't get there that way, right? So they have all these this trickery in their
Yeah.
engineering.
False.
Yeah,
Yeah. False tombs and things.
false shafts
Yeah.
that led nowhere, and then shafts that led to the tomb, and then they sealed up. That was just like you couldn't tell the difference. They would seal it in a way that it would look just like hard surface rock.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was cool to see. I remember we went on the, like I said, you go to places and you're almost the only people on one side of the, like, depending what time you went and this and that. But I remember one time we were the only ones on one whole side of one of the pyramids, and they have like a security guard on the corner. It's supposed to be making sure you don't climb it or whatever. But I remember he came out, he was sitting in a little shaded area, and he came out and said, yeah, go up it, get a photo, get up a bit. So I went on one of the blocks, and he said, no, go higher, go higher, go higher. So I was almost like a quarter of the way up the thing getting a photo, and then you come down and he just wants a tip after, right? So yeah,
It's all part of survival, right?
yeah,
The tourists are their financial survival, right? So if they can get a little tip on the side, a little cash on the side, of,
yeah,
they're gonna do it.
yeah,
They all did it in all those tombs that we went into, especially the Valley of the Kings. They were all looking for a little extra, right? Because life's not
well,
easy for them.
even the kids were trying to get. I remember you joke with all of them. We took the one guy had a you were in the camel on the streets at one day, and I got on the one camel just to get a photo, like I did in Morocco, standing on top of the camel's back.
Mm-hmm.
But that guy you were joking with and getting along with, his camel's name was Charlie Brown, was it?
Yes. Yeah.
Charlie Brown, and but yeah, you see just the difference in life. It makes you appreciate being home. That's what they do every day is go out with their camel and try and get people to take photos and ride around, and that's all they do basically. Like it's
Yeah.
hot out there, really hot. It's almost 40 degrees Celsius, and
Oh
it
yeah.
was, yeah, it's just like a dead. It was windy, but it's like a dry heat, really dry.
And every day the same.
Yeah,
Every day, like here in North America, we we value a nice sunny day because we know winter comes and everything. There it was the same. Every day the sun shined and it was warm.
hot. Yeah,
Yeah.
hot.
Uh,
Yeah. So we were up there, and then you saw the Sphinx in there as well.
the Sphinx was there.
That was cool to see. They all line up too. It's the pyramids all line up, and the Sphinx lines up. It's all pretty cool to
Yeah.
see how it.
As far as as far as alignment, their astrology was amazing. In their belief of the stars and the moon and horizons and sun setting, because their gods, they had a god of the Nile and the river and a god of the sun and a god of the land. All their gods had to work together.
Mm-hmm.
So they put a lot of attention into the astronomy there.
Yeah.
And they put a lot of attention into everything they did.
Details.
I'm finding, like when you will go in these pyramids that are thousands of years old, 3,000 to 4,000 years old, and you see the paintings on the wall, and their paintings and drawings told the story.
Mm-hmm.
But those paintings are vivid colors, reds and oranges, are vivid color. How did they make those colors? Like some of the mix to make the color didn't grow locally. It probably grew in another country, in Ethiopia or Kenya, but they all came to that Egypt civilization at the end to support royalty, the kingship, right? It's amazing how they milled those colors because they didn't have oil and paint thinners and all that back in the day, polymers. They just had natural.
Yeah, whatever they used.
Yeah, they used naturally, whether it was berries or whether it was bark off of trees or however they extracted their paint material was in itself technically, to me, unbelievable. It was
Yeah.
back then,
Yeah.
you know. It was, and the paint lasted. It's still there on the wall. It's still lasting, right?
Yeah, I guess you think of a building nowadays, if it goes unattended to for however long, it starts to
Oh, 100,
grow
200,
in and
300 years,
break
400 years,
down.
and it's gone. It's demolished, right?
Yeah.
The concrete emulsifies after a couple hundred years. Even today,
Yeah.
it emulsifies, and eventually the structure, after 400 or 500 years, it's no more good. But these
Yeah,
structures,
5,000. Yeah.
5,000, they're still supporting. They're still supporting not the rock and all the weight and the paint sticking well. It's just blows my mind.
Yeah, they were very surreal to see when you're there, thinking that you're actually here right now, seeing
Yes.
them. Such like a iconic structure and thing in the world, right? So
I'd recommend that one tourist attraction to anybody in the world, like Giza and the pyramids and the Nile. If you can take a river cruise down the Nile, because there's so much more all along the Nile, cultivated Cairo and Alexandria and all those big cities in the
yeah,
area, right? They were just supplying the food, supplying the materials, supplying the labor force, supplying everything. So the Nile was well respected, and to this day, was a key avenue.
yeah, yeah. Like yeah, when we got there, we did all the touring like we did in the area up by the pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had to go pick up the bike, Old Stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
It got into the airport allegedly. It saw it was arrived at the airport, so I took the shuttle van out, like a sprinter van, out to the airport, and we had to try and get it back. You think it'd be simple that it's there, they'd know where it is. It's a huge, big box, like a TV sized box. But we get there and they're looking at the stamp saying, well, you're not arrived on the day you said you arrived. And I was trying to explain that to them. And remember, they took me back to this other area and you had to stay there. And then they took my passport and two of them went into this back area. And I didn't know for about an hour. They went back there. I don't know what they were doing. And finally, they came out pushing the bike upside down and twisted around, all beat up the box. But it was there finally. And then we got a ride back to the hotel area and we started to build up the bike. I just, you have to put the tires on and build it up that way. And I remember filling up one of the tubes, and one of the tubes just to test it, and it popped right there. That was one of my spares gone. And that was a big thing about Africa, is you couldn't get the same spares or replacements that you could get in the United States or even Mexico. It was like very few and far between, right? Like a place like Cairo, you'd be able to get it, but then you wouldn't be able to get it again for 100 or 1,000 miles, because it's further away than just in the States. Every 100 miles you can go to a bike shop. It'd be way different. So had to build up the bike and Old Stubborn there, and then you guys changed over to a different hotel for 2 days before, because you went on that river cruise down the Nile and then started heading back up for 3 days, and then I left 2 days later. But so you got that new hotel, but before that we had the guy that was the chef at the hotel by the pyramids, Asim.
Oh yes.
And he worked on the rooftop there, and he was very friendly. He would ask everybody about what they're doing and where they're from and this and that. And he found out I was celiac, and remember the day before we left to that other hotel, he made me a gluten-free shepherd's pie specifically for me in the morning, and it had cinnamon in it. It was probably one of the best shepherd's pies I've had.
Oh, yeah.
Gave it to us in the morning there, and it was very nice. Gave us these small little pyramid souvenirs for us to take home, and yeah, he was very nice.
Very, very nice. Very accommodating. He helped us get in a taxi and bartered for us. caught a few of the taxi people trying to take advantage of
Yeah,
us and
yeah,
gave them hell. So, yeah, he was an awesome person to know there.
yeah. No, he was really nice. And then, yeah, we put together old Stubber and I tested him out for a little bit. And then that one day, just riding around, because, when you use those new tires, there's always a bump in it or something. You just kind of gotta test it out. And
Mm-hmm.
but I just remember just feeling surreal, like riding on those roads with old Stubborn, and you see the pyramids off to your right, and thinking that that's the same bike I've ridden, all these training rides in Kelowna when there's deers around, and then riding all across the states and all in Mexico near dolphins and this and that, and then later on in this trip seeing elephants on it. But I remember being on, yeah, going by the pyramids and just thinking, oh, it's been all around the world, this bike. And then we went over to your new hotel, which is about like 10 kilometers away, 5 kilometers away. But I remember you guys took the taxi over with our bags and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and then I had to ride the bike over, and that was my first time really riding on the roads. And everybody, it'd be like New York, but with no rules, right? Like there's cars everywhere, but they're all cutting in, and there's the donkeys and the camels and dirt road, and then it's paved road, and the buses are weaving in and out and beeping, and yeah, it was pretty hectic trying to.
Yeah, it's different, especially when you're following a camel and they poop and you
Yeah,
gotta go dodge the poop.
yeah, yeah. That
Uh,
was hectic, and then I wanted to. Mark Beaumont got this cool shot of him before his ride with all the pyramids in the back, up
mm,
where we could go in there, right?
right.
And then, like I said, cars go up there, buses, horses, donkeys, camels, people, everything. So I got my bike ready and I was going to get shots, and they said the one thing that can't go up is bicycles.
I know. I couldn't understand that.
Yeah,
I could not have any reason of understanding why they had that law, but they were adamant about
yeah,
it.
adamant that we couldn't bring the bike. We tried a number of entrances, tried to bribe them like $100 just
Yeah,
to get
but
$100 US, and they couldn't.
no,
They said the government would really get them in trouble if they did. So
right.
yeah, I couldn't bring the bike up top like I wanted to, but we found this kind of back area where I got like my starting shot, whereas I was holding the Canada flag in front of the pyramids, and there was a stray dog sitting on this pile of rubble there.
Yeah,
It was
that
kind
was.
of a good, cool moment for the start there. And then, yeah, then we went over to that other hotel and I had about 2 days of like getting the bike ready, getting all my stuff ready, because all the videos I took in Mexico and in America, I'd edit every night the videos and do all my own stuff. For this trip, I was sending it to an editor through Dropbox, but still, it's not like you have good internet there. So one video that would go in a few seconds back here would take like 20 minutes over there. So I'm trying to send all this footage to start the trip off to the editor, Kyle, and then yeah, but spent those first couple days just waiting at your hotel, and then you and Mom left the morning that I left, right? Because you
Mhm.
had to check out the hotel. So you guys left on your trip down south, and that was the morning where I had left for the trip. So you did what? You went down and then came up the Nile for a couple days.
Yeah, we flew down, uh, and then we came up because the Nile runs north, which is very, very, very strange. One of the few rivers and river basins that run north in the world, right?
Yeah,
So, and it starts where you did at the headwaters down in Victoria Falls, right?
yeah. I got there later in the trip.
Later in the trip, starts there and comes north, and we were about halfway up the Nile where we started, but all along the way from there to back to Cairo, there's numerous um, different pyramids
Yeah,
and different castles and cultural structural cities that were in the day 3,000 years old, right?
yeah,
And they explain what was going on, who was in power, the ancestry all the way through, which is amazing. And they're still digging on all these sites, and they say that 75% of all the artifacts are still under the sand, still haven't been. And everybody's trying to get an artifact because it's in demand. The government's trying to stop it. And anytime there's a building going up and they dig in and they find artifacts, it goes to the government and in the museums. But a lot of locals know it's a quick wealth. If they find an artifact, it could be set for life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on. So there's a lot of under the table type of archaeology going on in these not so much in the excavation sites that are all known, but locally everywhere
Yeah.
along the Nile, all along the Nile, and in these cultural places. So there is more to come. Like I've been following National Geographic for the last 25, 30 years on it. But this is only the beginning because they say that there's good 60 to 75% still under the sand in the ground that hasn't been discovered.
Yeah. 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 I know. They just around when we went, actually, they had that new discovery with the LiDAR that they think there's like coils that go down like a kilometer or more underneath the pyramids, or
Yeah. How
yeah, I
do you
don't.
explain that? Like
Yeah.
they're technologically capable of that 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years ago?
Yeah. It's a mystery.
It is, isn't it? So I would encourage anybody to keep up on it. And if had the chance, a once in a lifetime trip would be to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was very cool. It was different, definitely, than the rest of the country that I saw. I was only in the country after I left for a few more days, but it was definitely more tourists around the pyramids, like right around
Oh yeah.
Giza. But once you left out of Giza, even in Cairo, like once you get out a bit, it was just people living their daily life, going about,
Mm-hmm.
really busy. But when I was first leaving that first day, it was the last day of Ramadan. So I think it was a little more relaxed because that was when they could they didn't have to fast for the rest of the day, every day,
That's
That
right.
was the first day they could
Uh-huh.
go back to normal. So I think it was like a celebration. So the roads weren't as busy. It was still busy. It was like, yeah, like I said, the last day of Ramadan. So it was still busy, but it was, I think, a celebration day more so. So more people at home. But I remember I had to get to this ferry that crossed from Safaga to Duba, which is Safaga, Egypt, to Duba, Saudi Arabia, crosses the Red Sea. I had to be at that ferry point like 3 days from when I first started. So I had 3 days to go. I think it was 536 kilometers. So it was around, I don't know, 180-ish kilometers a day. So I remember my first day, I was set off to do, yeah, 180 kilometers roughly. And you guys left early in the morning because you had a flight down before you took your river cruise up. So I said bye to you that morning, and yeah, then after that I got a little breakfast at the hotel place, and then it's kind of just surreal feeling like leaving. You're looking at the pyramids, and then yeah, you just have to.
Were you anxious to start, or were you
Yeah, by
gun
that
ho?
point I was ready to go because on like you do all your training, this and that, but for almost a week I didn't do anything, right? I didn't run, I didn't bike, I didn't lift, I didn't, like, from when I left France to, we'd walk around the pyramids, but I was like anxious to get moving, and you don't really take a week off activity ever. So but it was different going from that first day of not doing anything, and then all of a sudden you're cycling 180 kilometers. You get the lactate build up in your legs, and it was tough. I remember leaving that very first moment. It's kind of surreal. Like, you set your camera up, and I was doing self filming for everything. So you have to set your camera up, go back, ride by it, and then come back, grab the camera, then go. But as soon as you actually commit, now is time, you start your watch. It's the first day, and you're thinking your goal is so far away. You can't even really fathom it. It's South Africa, but you kind of just got to focus on whatever the 10 feet right in front of you and take it kilometer by kilometer, just solve that day's problems, and
Yeah.
Yeah, you just start basically, but you put your map on. I had a phone holder on my bike that held my phone, and you put in the town you're getting to that day, and yeah, basically just start. And I don't know, going through Cairo was one of those really. They have all these roads that twist around, and you get on the road, and although there's donkeys and everything, and this and that, it's rubble and garbage and crap and broken tires and glass, everything in the shoulder. If you call it a shoulder, it's not really. You're kind of in the road with everything, but everybody's flying by you, and you're a little like anxious the first day. You're still getting used to the weight on your bike and how everything goes. You're all clean, you're fresh shaven, like
Uh,
everything's.
but the world doesn't care about you.
Yeah,
You're
no.
out there alone.
Yeah.
The world's zipping by you, and it's more of a preservation thing back then.
Yeah, well, and I stood out so much. I had bleach blonde hair, white guy,
Mhm.
and everybody's, yeah, Egypt or Egyptian, like brown skin. As it went on in the trip, I stood out even more in places like Ethiopia when they got really dark skin. I was light blonde hair, but yeah, you're going, people are looking at you, taking photos of you. And I mean, the first day was a lot of it was highway riding because you're getting out of Cairo. So
Yeah.
you left Giza, and I kind of had to pick my way through the city a bit. Then you get on a road where you're kind of good to just go for a while. But I remember at one point it was a 15-lane highway going on one side each way, 15 lanes. I counted them all.
Wow.
And but yeah, you'd have one or two cars going by that day. Once you got out of Cairo, it was pretty desolate. There wasn't much happening. Like cars would go by here and there, but 15 lanes, the biggest highway I've ever seen. It was.
Well, they got 22 million people, and then Giza's got 8 million. So you got 30 million people in that short distance,
Yeah,
and they got to travel, right?
yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, and it's a big route going from the like the Red Sea there where the canal is,
Right.
and but yeah, I just started heading that way. So heading east towards the Red Sea, basically directly east. But that first day was it was super hot, like 38 to 40 in there. Beating sun, you don't have any shade. And most of it was an uphill gradual. So I think I had around 1,000 meters of elevation gain that day, which isn't a crazy amount, but it's way different when you're riding with the weight on the bike because it's not. First of all, you have these two pannies in the front, and I had one bag in the back on the rack right behind my seat. But it's square. It's not like wind aerodynamic, right?
Yeah.
So it stops the wind, and plus the weight of the bike, even just slightly going up the hill, because I had camping gear in one pannier, I had camera gear in the other one, I had clothes, my laptop, like everything I need to be self-sufficient, water stuff, food, because I'm celiac. I had to bring some of my own food because I couldn't eat a lot of the breads and things they have there. So yeah, it was yeah, it's just you really think like, oh, what am I getting myself into starting? Like you've thought about it for so long, you're confident that you can do it, but you really have no idea. You know something's going to happen from start to finish. It's just filling in the blanks, right? It's like
Right.
you don't know what's going to happen. You have a rough idea of where you're going to end each night. Like really not really actually. The first day I had an idea where I was going to end. After that, you never know where you're going to get to the next day. You
Right.
kind of take it day by day, but it was yeah, just surreal. It doesn't even feel real. Like you
Mm.
think friends back home or in work or in school, and then you're on just like, what am I doing on this bike in the middle of Egypt? But I think I don't know. There's a difference between like knowing in my mind, thinking, oh, I've seen Mark Beaumont do that. I could do that. I know I could do that, and then never doing it. There's a difference between flying there, setting the bike up, getting it all together, like weaving in and out of camels, putting yourself in the harm's way of vehicles, and actually making it happen, right? There's a difference between doing it and knowing you can do it.
That's right. And that's a life lesson because the truth lies in doing it, not thinking about it. And most people would see, oh, he's riding his bike across Africa, but they don't realize the heat of the moment, how hot it is. They don't realize how heavy your bike is and what you're carrying to survive. They don't realize the danger that's flying by you. They don't realize all the intricate momently things.
And being solo. You don't have a
Yeah,
team with you filming. You don't have a
right,
sag wagon behind you with its
right.
blinkers on, flashing. Like it's just you.
Yeah.
It's
And people
completely
think,
solo.
oh, it's not a big deal. I could do that. But keeping yourself honest in life is the hardest thing to do. Anybody can dream and think about it. Very few people will do to keep themselves honest as far as their thinking goes, because it's really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember like finishing my America ride. We're actually at the spot right now in Maine where I finished my America ride. Our family's cottage here. The beach is 100 meters away. I came down this road right here that we're sitting on, and I finished my cycle trip right there across
In the
America
rain,
in the rain. Yeah,
cold.
yeah. Now it's nice and warm, but yeah, freezing cold, raining. But I remember finishing that trip and people saying like, "Oh, it's a trip of a lifetime." Like if you didn't want to do anything anymore, like you'd be good. You'd be like, you've accomplished it, you've done it. And I remember thinking at what 21 years old, like I can't have peaked here. Like this has been amazing, but my life can't be over at 21, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it is cool to just think about everything I've learned across America bike ride or Mexico bike ride or any of the other endeavors I've done. They all relate one way or the other, but taking those lessons you've learned and implementing again. That's that comfort breeds complacency thing. It's like you could just be the guy who's back in the good old days talking about what you did back then. And it is fun to talk about and reminisce on those things, but I always like to keep striving. It's almost like a waste to have all this information and knowledge and the ability to do so and then to leave it on the shelf, right? That's why I like to keep striving for these new projects and new challenges, even though it's daunting. And like I said, even before going to Africa, when I was back in Canada, I had to get it was 7 or 8 vaccines all at once: yellow fever, rabies, typhoid, like all these things, right? And you're thinking, oh, where am I going? That like in Canada, you need none of this stuff. You just go to the grocery store, But thinking about looking at the map of malaria and dengue fever and the wars going on, it's like it is nerve wracking. It's not like you don't feel the fear or don't feel that, but for me, it's almost worse to think like, oh, I could probably do that, but then just go about doing something else and keep it in your mind and not ever realize your potential than it is to go out and try. And even if you fail, at least you've gone out and tried, right? So,
You will never, ever, ever fail if you try. It might not turn out like you wanted to that time, but you haven't failed because you've gained knowledge to be better next time.
yeah.
And life is just that. Try, and tomorrow hopefully you do a little better from the knowledge you've learned in the past. So there is no real failure. That's a society thing. If you're not perfect, then you fail.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even when I swim, it took 3 attempts. The first two you could call failures, I guess, but we learned a lot from each one we did. And
They weren't failures. We learned a lot
yeah,
that allowed you to succeed
yeah,
in the third one, right?
hmm
But that's life. Try and try and try and try, and you never arrive in life. It's one big try after another.
yeah,
Gaining knowledge and applying knowledge is what life's about. It gives you purpose and being, and it's beneficial. Sharing that knowledge is really beneficial, and it's really contributing to the progression of your species, yourself, and family, and relatives and friends. You're giving back instead of just dreaming about it. You're actually executing the journey. It's one thing to prep and plan, but then to execute it and then share it is a completely different realm.
hmm
It's another level of
yeah,
teaching and compassion for a fellow man.
yeah. Well, yeah, we've done some unique things that most people aren't doing. So it's good to kind of change the mindset or share the mindset because it's not reserved just for endurance stuff. Like you can use the lessons you learn in these for your business or your relationships or
Oh,
personal?
definitely. Like you yourself, you had to make decisions timely every day.
No.
Timely decisions, right? To move ahead. Otherwise, you'd be paralyzed if you did. And decision making is a prime ability in life. You will make decisions all your life to your dying day.
No.
Whether they're right or wrong, you have to make the decision. And if you paralyze yourself and worry about the risk and not making the decision, you will never get it right. But if you try, there's a big chance you'll get it right.
Yeah. 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 It's you get a lot of self-confidence being over there because you realize you can be in a place where you don't speak the language, you know nobody, and you're doing something really physically hard, and you can still make it work. You
Oh,
know.
it'd be terrifying.
Yeah.
When I was thinking of what you were going through, it was pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, how do you communicate? Everybody communicates daily. They don't think of it. They're getting their needs met by talking and this and that. How do you communicate with another culture that doesn't speak your language? Right there, you got to be creative enough to get through that barrier,
Yeah.
to get your needs met for survival and move on. So those are all decisions, and they're not easy. They come with emotion, and they can be terrifying, right? So kudos to you for handling it and being creative enough to come
Yeah.
up with solutions. And
Yeah, a lot of it too. You didn't have service to use Translate or whatever on your phone, so there's a lot of body language and pointing, and I don't know, you just kind of figure out. You're like really what I based each day off was like just solving today's problems. Is like if I have a goal of getting from this town or area to this area, you have to start on a bike, and whenever it comes to you, you just keep solving problems. Some days would go smoother than others. Some days are full of problems. Some days, yeah, I don't know, things would come up. You wouldn't call it a problem, like rain, but it's an inconvenience. You have to still change some things or whatever. But yeah, that first day was really hot. I remember it being super hot, but also headwind coming off the Red Sea for the whole 180K that day. It was blowing dead on headwind. So it's like the only thing I can relate it to would be if you're in a gym on like a indoor bike, like one of those Kaiser bikes that you can change the resistance. It'd be like putting it almost full resistance and then just trying to pedal with the weight slightly uphill into the wind. It was just like even flat. If it was flat with the headwind, it makes it feel like you're going uphill. So when you really are going uphill, that slight 1-2% the whole day, it was just a grind, or your legs, you're forcing each day. You know, if you're on a downhill or falls flat downhill, you can kind of spin your legs and you're pedaling, but you're not pushing hard
right.
wattage. Where that is like pushing major wattage the whole day just to move forward. I remember getting like stopping a few times throughout. And again, like I said, I'd been going from no training the previous week when you're leading up to it, no movement really besides walking, to now you're full forcing for hours on hours. You get the like lactate buildup in your legs, the pain feeling, and
Especially in the quads.
yeah. And but as you get like as you do a trip like this, you get fitter as the trip goes on, and you become more efficient and everything. But I remember that first day I was burning like 7,000-8,000 calories just to get through that day. And I remember I got to like where it was like 140K probably to the Red Sea, and then I had to go 40 more K along it to get to the place where I was staying that night. And I remember the very first day I was going, and the sun sets there at like 5 or 6 p.m. It's not like here in the summer where 10, 11 p.m. you can go light wise. It's like winter in Canada where like 4 or 5 p.m. it's dark. So there at 5:30, 6 p.m. it was pitch black. So the first day of the ride, I was riding in the dark on the roads there, and you get I was really struggling by the end of that day. I was just so exhausted, and my lungs were killing me from all the fumes of the trucks coming out of Cairo, and my shirt was like black, my face was black from the fumes, And I had booked a hotel. This is one of the days that I booked a hotel beforehand, because you could in that area. After this, you couldn't really book them beforehand. You just kind of just show up somewhere and see if there's a place to stay. But this one I had booked a place, so I knew it was like 184K I had to get that day. So now I was going along the Red Sea, and it became more of these like fishing towns, like big into fishing off the Red Sea, and each one of their little fish restaurants on the road, just like a little restaurant, like a one person ran type of thing, but they have these pelicans tied on the side of the road for like tourists. I think they come and they take a photo, hold the beak of the
Yeah.
pelican, and one guy, as I was going by, was taking a photo. He said, "Oh, come in, get a photo." So I got a photo with one of the pelicans, and then kept going. But yeah, it was more of like a tourist route, like I was saying, along the Red Sea there. There's some bigger hotels and things like that. So, but I remember I had like a 12K left in the day, and it was all uphill at the end. And I remember there was this big pile of dirt, and I had like my legs were just hurting so bad that I threw my bike down and had like my legs up on the, you don't care about dirt or what you're laying in, or I just had my legs up on the dirt, just like trying to get the blood flushed out of them a bit, just in like pain, so uncomfortable. You just can't, yeah, I don't know, it's hard to explain that first day. And I was just laying there and had a little jar of honey I took from the hotel the early morning and just using it as a gel a bit, but just so exhausted. But I don't know, you go kilometer by kilometer, and I got done that first day, and they had trouble checking me into this hotel. And by the time I got into the room, it was like 2 in the morning. It was like 2 in the morning that night, and I was so exhausted. I brought two or three like add water meals for
Mhm.
like emergencies from my trip. I remember I was so tired the first day, I just boiled water and ate that meal, because all I had before, I had found a little tuna cans alongside the road as I was leaving Cairo. That was the only food I had besides like my Hornby bars. So I ate that, and it was just so exhausted. My eyes were like hugely bagged, and there a lot of the places didn't have toilets, and the showers were barely working, so you'd have this just dribbly shower, and there's no toilet, it's just the floor you squat on. And I remember that first day though, just crashing after that. It was 184K that day.
Did you
And
have doubts you'd get through this after
oh,
that first day?
not doubts, it's just you realize how hard. I still think that first day was one of the toughest days of the trip
Hmm.
as far as physically goes. Like obviously throughout I had tons of tough days and some more like pressing issues throughout the trip, but that one was like physically tough just because I'm not used to riding 180K every single day yet. I'm not, I had to build up from the not doing stuff the week before until now. I had like, I don't know, the heat, the just everything. It was one of the toughest days. It was still like 12 hours of riding time that day. I think it was 14 hours of total time that was to get that 180K, which is like long for that distance. But it wasn't like I can't do it. It was just you realize it's different than America, different than Mexico. It's like it's going to be a way different challenge, especially solo. And then yeah, that second day I woke up, and every single day too I'd journal. I do a journal every single day, and it's going to be going into like a book of all these adventures, but I like to do it fresh while I'm had the day. But at the end of the day, the last thing you feel like doing is sitting down and writing for half an hour or an hour about all the things that happened, and then at the same time you're trying to upload footage to the Dropbox so the editor can deal with it, and then you are trying to upload stories to Instagram so people can see in the moment what you're doing, and it's just a lot to do solo like each day, and get food. And so yeah, each day was an extra 5-6 hours each night you get in somewhere to do all this stuff. And
What would be your advice to anybody that wants to do this? Would you recommend it to have a team or solo?
well, it's a different experience. Like like my swimming thing, for example, you can't really swim without a team unless it's within 10-20 kilometers, right? But if you want it filmed, if you want to have all that, yeah, you kind of do need a team. If like it's a different experience. This is really like trailblazing, like it's like bushwhacking when you're going solo, right?
Mhm.
You don't have anybody else to answer to. No biases coming in from everybody. Every experience you have is you. Every issue you solve is because you solved it. But you're going to lack like the quality of, let's say, a video. Like if you have a filmer with a perfect camera and he's got a gimbal and everything's going to look better, right? But then it depends if you want to say that you've done it solo or if you did it as a crew. It'd definitely be more fun with other people, like having friends around to share the experience with, but it is something to doing things solo. I think you get a lot of self-confidence and you realize that you can do these things without the help of other people, and you can go basically anywhere in the world and be able to take care of yourself, right?
With your story and how you elaborate and put it out to the public and to people, do you think they are capable of understanding things like lactate buildup and wind coming at you, a heavy bite going up an incline, unless they experience it, no matter how well you try to
Yeah, and you
explain it to
can't
them?
articulate it well enough for anybody to experience. Like you could get the exact same setup and do it in Canada, let's say, and do a 180K bike ride up a hill in the wind with that weight and feel kind of what it feels like with your legs, but it's never going to be as hot as it was in Egypt. You're never going to have the chaos of the roads or the fumes in your lungs. You're never going to have the feeling of loneliness being around the other side of the world by yourself. You're not
That's
going to
right.
have that, right?
All those particulars go into the story and into the discipline needed to succeed in the
Yeah,
journey, right?
I've done other things too. I've done, I don't know what you want to call, like high rocks, let's say, the indoor physical activities, CrossFit type of things, where it's planned events or even races like triathlon races or backyard ultras where it's around the same thing. It's more than that. It's like it's not an event, it's your life, right? It's every day is dire, it's critical. You have to be vigilant and diligent every single day because it is like it's not a race director there. If something goes wrong, you can tap out and they'll get medical help. It's if something goes wrong, you're the one that has to watch your back because if not, you're probably going to get robbed and left on the side of the road. Like, this is how it is. So you always have to be watching your own back, and it's definitely different, I'd say, than any race, anything you can do like that. These self kind of organized projects, especially when you're a solo. Like, even on my swim, it was a self organized project, but if I were to pass out in the water, I have 15 people on the boat and around in kayaks that would jump in to get me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say. Or if I'm running a race like Moab 240, which I got in a few weeks here, if worst comes to worst, like you can't get a lot of help on the trail, but you make it another 10 miles to the aid station, you'll get help, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there's no aid stations going across Africa. It's just you the whole time, right? So, yeah, it's
So the fear, the risk and fear factor, would you say that it's different with you than most people?
I think I've just exposed myself to it more. The more you do, the more you're able to do. I think it's not like you don't feel fear. Same with when I started my Hawaii swim, going from Molokai to Oahu. It's like you're looking out at this ocean that's wide open, and there's sharks in there. You're setting out to go swim at night. It's you never know what's going to happen. It's not like you don't feel fear, but it's no different than, let's say, on the edge of a base jump, an exit point where you're nervous, you're everything, but you have to trust the training you put in, the preparation, your decision making, whether this is a good decision or if I should back out. Like, all that goes into it. And you think about the other situations where you've had that. And that's why I say everything's connected, even if it's base jumping or swimming or cycling or running or a relationship, anything. You think about how you processed and prepared for the other one and what you felt, and then you were able to overcome that and have a good jump or have a good swim. And like, faking bravery is like being brave still. It's just a different kind of bravery. If you're scared and you're nervous but you pretend even to yourself like you've got it, and you're I don't know, it's not afraid, but you're just it's bravery is facing the fears you have. It's not having the fears. It's having them and overcoming them and whatever you have to do. For me, it's been gotten more confidence as I've went over having all these things I've done, right? Like when I first started this first day, I was very, I don't know, it's just you're more conscious of the trucks right by you. Like, and then in Egypt, I had a pretty good shoulder, like leaving Cairo. I had enough room for trucks to pass me and everything, but you're still a little shaky. Whereas, like later on the trip in Zambia and things where the roads are completely garbage and there's trucks whizzing right by you, like right on your handlebars, like feet away from you, but you're not as worried as you were earlier in the trips just because you become habituated to these situations. You're not getting complacent, but it's like you're, I don't know, if you're braver or you've used the information that you've got from the other endeavors or other experiences and you utilize it at the task at hand and you become more confident. And that's, again, you don't want to become complacent. You don't want to say, oh, I'm not nervous about this at all. Like you should always feel a little something, right? It means you care about it, it means it matters, right?
Human, right?
Yeah.
The emotion and yeah.
So yeah, that was the first day. And the second day I woke up and again, it was right on the Red Sea. It was like a little beach area. People were, I don't know, doing beach stuff, just families hanging out. Lots of, I think, Egypt families would vacation around there too, not just tourists, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was this little corner store, and literally that day for breakfast, I ate Bounty bars, like 3 or 4 Bounty bars, and a bag of Lay's original, just salted potato chips.
For breakfast?
Yeah. It's like as celiac, there might be these options you can have, these meats or these breads and things, but as a celiac, I can't have it. I can't trust even if they say it's gluten free, I can't trust the cross contamination unless I know I've made it myself, or else I'll get violently sick and that cuts a full day off. And if that happens in the middle of a ride and you can't get anywhere now, you're kind of hooped. So I just kind of had to stick to one things I know, and even if it's junk food, it's still carbs and calories coming in, sugars, things that you need, right? So usually at the end of the day, I'd try and find something that had protein, some tuna cans, or I always carry tuna in the back of my shirt. Whenever I'd see some, I'd load up, things like that. But yeah, that second day was another headwind day. It was basically once I got to the Red Sea, it was just the same road that went all the way down to the town of Safaga where I went. So it was basically one straight shot down. So I got back on that road again. It was a pretty nice road. They had good shoulders, but every like kilometer or so they'd have like these 3 or 4 rumble strips.
Oh, okay.
That would happen 5 times. So it'd be like 5 rumble strips and 3 rows of them. So you go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then another 2 kilometers down the road, you always hit them. So you either go fast over them and try and do them quick if they're little ones, but if they're bigger, they'll destroy your rims, your spokes, especially with that weight. So you have to go all the way down to 0, just limp over them, and then go. And actually that day, by the end of that second day, I did a big nightmare of mine after America with all the broken spokes, and then Mexico with all the pop tires, 70 pop tires in 50 days. I got a bent spoke on the first day or second day of this Africa trip. The front wheel had a spoke that was completely loose. So like I said, each trip you learn a little something. So this one I had a spoke wrench and tightened it that night. But yeah, that day was basically just like trudging along. I needed some more money that day because it's hard to get money there. Like, a lot of my cards wouldn't work in ATMs, so I had some cash, American cash. Or actually, no, I had what it was I had my Apple Pay on my iPhone, where you use like your credit card to scan, and they had tap for at a gas station. They had tap, and I asked for money back. So I asked, if I pay for, let's say, $100, would you give me 100 cash back? And they agreed to do that. So I remember tapping it, and then the attendant went, "Thank you," and then he walked away, like making a joke, like, "Oh, thanks for the money. Now we have your money." But then they just walked away, and he didn't give me the money. So I had to go in and talk to his manager, and then he came out and hit the guy, and he gave me the money. But it's like you don't know who you can really trust or how you can Yeah, it was a lot because you don't want to carry a ton of money going through all these countries either in case you do get robbed. But
It's different though in each
yeah,
country, isn't
yeah,
it?
that's what I'm saying. I needed 9 currencies because you go through 9 different countries, and nothing's card. Around the Egypt area, around Cairo, you could use card. For the rest of the trip, I couldn't use card until probably Botswana, Kenya, South Africa, but Ethiopia, they're not using card. Everything's cash. And you can't really use American either. They don't have use for it. It's not like Mexico or places where they take American.
Mm-hmm.
They just they want their money, their currency. So, yeah, that day I got that. That day was pretty just normal, just a flat day along the Red Sea. On my left the whole day, and on the right was just desert. It was hot again. But yeah, we I kept going that day, and then got into another little spot. All that, although that day I got chased by some dogs, I remember, and they were like the Mexico dogs, which were vicious and violent, and you have to yell at them and try and kick at them as they come close because they're not like, I don't know, these ones will actually nip at you and try and get. They're wild dogs, right?
Yeah.
Stray dogs. So yeah, and then I got to this little town and got in for the night, and I got a hotel again that night, a little motel, and I fixed my rear rim or my front rim, the spoke, and then I fixed the spoke and then went to get some groceries through town. But I remember just walking, like kids are playing soccer in the street. They had this big kind of wedding thing going on in the street. Everybody's dancing and you're just walking through the street, but everybody's like turning, looking at you as you come in. But you kind of just have to hold your head high and just walk with confidence, like you belong there as well. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was basically the second day. It was kind of starting to get into that routine a bit. My legs still hurt, but they weren't had that lactate build up as much. You kind of get more efficient as you go, right? As you become fitter, and then your legs become more efficient and stronger. Even though they're fatigued, they're getting stronger as the trip goes.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good second day, and then the third day, yeah, I had actually had a tailwind day that day. I remember you never really get a true tailwind day ever. It seems cycling, it's always crosswind or headwind. Even
Right.
if it's diagonal wind, it feels like a headwind.
Right.
You never really get a true tailwind day, but this day I did. The second day I went 100 and I think 34K, and then the next day I had to get to that town where the ferry was leaving. So I went. It was like 216K to go that day, and I remember leaving in the morning, feeling the winds. And I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be good." And then I left the hotel and was heading out of town, and then I realized that I couldn't find the tool that I had, like a tool I needed, my multi-tool that I needed for the rest of the trip. I couldn't find it where it usually was, so I went 4K out of town, 4K back into town to the motel. He didn't have it there, so I took apart my whole bag and found it in my bag. I had it, but I needed to know where it was in case I left it somewhere. I had to pack that back up and then leave again. So before even doing the day, I did an extra 8K. And then as I was leaving that town, I remember there were these two guys in a little pickup truck that said, "Smoke, you smoke." I thought they were saying, like, "We're smoking, like, look at us." I was like, "Oh, yeah, nice." And then they handed a cigarette to me out the truck, and they said to light it. I said, "Oh, I'll hold on to it. I'll hold on to it. Thanks." And they were happy and got them on the video, and then they took off. And I remember having that cigarette that they gave me and saying, "Oh, I'll save it till the end at the finish and have a smoke at the finish or something." So I tucked it away for the rest of the trip, and then I actually did light it at the very end in South Africa and took one hit, coughing, but it was all mangled by the end, kind of. But yeah, those guys gave me that cigarette, and then I got on the road, the highway, and it was just a perfect tailwind that day. And I remember cruising at like 40 kilometers an hour, like not effortlessly, you still had to pedal, but like holding that 40K for the whole day. And it was basically just, again, like a straight shot that whole day. Just,
That encouraged you a bit.
yeah, it was nice to, have that. And because I was worried about making it to this ferry, because if I didn't catch that ferry that next day, then I would be stuck there for a full another week. And there was really no other way across Saudi Arabia to Saudi from where I was. But yeah, I mean, I was just going, and yeah, it was good to. I rode in the night that night to get to this town, but it was nice to have one of those big days. And that was still one of the bigger days of my trip, 216K that day, and getting done and feeling like you're making momentum, and you got done Egypt basically, and got ready to head over to Saudi Arabia the next day. And then as soon as I got into a motel that night, I looked and it said that my what's it called, my ferry had been changed for 2 days from now. So I arrived on a Wednesday night, was supposed to leave Thursday morning, and now it was leaving Friday evening.
Oh, wow.
So then I get there and think, well, I just rushed all this way for nothing, but at least I got a day off now. So the next day, I was just stayed there again the next day, just kind of hung out, didn't do too much. But even walking around town that night, though, getting food, people are wanting to take photos of me. You feel like a celebrity almost. People are taking photos with you and doing all that. But yeah, it was nice riding in the night, though, too. I like it because you focus just on what's in front of you. You don't have to worry about anything else. So you just get... we have some visitors here, but yeah, so you focus just on what's in front of you. And then but had the next day, just hung out, and you guys actually were passing back up. You were driving the same road I went on, but the other way back up to the airport in Cairo. And then you stopped in quick, right?
Yeah,
So I saw you like 3 days after I'd left. You and Mom stopped in.
There was a quick get together.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
10 minutes. But our tour guide, who was in the vehicle, he went out of his way to get us to you.
Yeah.
We said, our son is doing this, and he was amazed. And he says, well, where's he at? He says, well, we're going by there. It's about 20 minutes out of the way.
Yeah.
I says, well, can we stop? He says, sure. So
yeah, it's nice to see you guys. That was because after I saw you there, I didn't see anybody again till Tanzania. I saw my friend Ryan just for a week when he joined me on Kilimanjaro, and then after Ryan, I didn't see anybody the whole second half of the trip. So after I left with you, it was a month or more of completely alone in Africa and Saudi. And I remember, that day I was basically just resting, kind of trying to upload some videos, getting ready for the next day when I cross on the ferry. I had done, it was 536K in those first 3 days, which was good. And then, the next day was basically waited again the whole day, got my bike and everything ready. And then I was supposed to, I'm used to going, let's say, Vancouver Island from Tawasin to Vancouver Island, Victoria, where the ferry, hour and a half ferry where the cars drive on. When it gets there, you know when it's going, it's scheduled, you get on it, the cars get on, the people get on, you're on it for an hour and a half, and then you get off, and everything's how it's supposed to be. And I remember showing up to this port where I was supposed to leave from at an hour or two, probably 2 hours before. I wanted to make sure I was there, so I got there 2 hours before, and I had booked this online, right? And this is when I realized nothing works online in Africa, and everything's done in person there. Everything's cash, and it's done in person. Nothing's online, because I went and I showed them this ticket I had, and the first thing the guy laying people in just said, no good. And then he goes back to talking to, I said, what do you mean? Like, I bought the, they don't try and help you at all. It's just, no, it doesn't work, no good. And then you're hooped. Like, I was just like, what do I do now? And I was trying to get a hold of this contact people that was the booking thing, and they don't answer. And anyways, this local guy was saying, oh, you're going on this ferry to Dubai? Yes, I'll help. I'll take you. So he brings me to his little shack there, and they have a ferry in there. I guess they sell tickets. So I said, I got a ticket already. He said, no, not from me. No, not going to work. So he charged me another, $84 US it was for a ticket. And then he doesn't give change though. So if you give him 100, he takes all 100. And then he's saying, sit here, I'll make sure you get on the ferry. By this time, an hour had gone by, and the ferry was supposed to leave in an hour. So I was saying, okay, like, you're sure I'm getting on it? You're sure? Yes, 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 you're good, you're good. And then but he would disappear for half an hour, come back, 15 minutes, come back. You want a Fanta? I'm like, I don't care about. If I want to get on the boat, like it's supposed to be leaving soon. Oh, no worry, don't worry, don't worry. So he brings me a drink, whatever. I'm hanging out there. Then the original booking people call me and they say, well, don't go. Did you pay anybody else? I said, yeah. I'm just texting them on WhatsApp. Everybody uses WhatsApp in Africa. I said, no. I text them. Like, oh, why would you do that? Why would you pay again? You know, this and that. And then he said, I'll meet at this bank down the road. And then I was getting my bike and everything to leave, and the other guy had second paid in cash, saying, where are you going? I said, I'm just going to get some cash. I didn't tell him I was going to meet another one. And I go and wait by this bank, and then this guy that was supposed to meet me never shows up. So I go back to the other guy, and then he says, we're here at the bank waiting. Where are you? So then I leave again, go meet him, and he says, okay, you're staying with me, the original booking. Don't go to that other guy. He's a scammer. He's a scammer. So I say, okay. So he brings me to his separate office, and then I'm waiting there. And by this point, I said, did I miss the ferry? It's the time it's leaving right now. He said, no, don't worry. That's not the real time. Don't worry. So the ticket, it says it's not the real time. He said, I need your passport. I'm going to go talk to that other guy. So he brings my passport, goes off, and I'm just sitting in this office. People are doing like hookah in the streets, and I'm just sitting there like waiting. I have no idea when this thing's supposed to leave. And then they they are gone for half an hour, and they come back in, and he said, is this a guy you talked to? I said, yes. And then they start yelling, screaming at each other in their local language, and I can't understand a thing they're saying in Arabic there, and they're screaming back and forth and this, and they're getting angry. And anyways, I'm saying, I don't care about the money. I just want to get on the boat. I don't care you can both keep it. Just get me on the boat. Like, he's saying, no, we're getting your money back. The guy's a scammer, a fraud, all this and that. I never did get the money back. He kept it, both of them. Eventually, they finally brought me a ticket. But all this time, I'm trying to film like low key on my phone too, just like because I do videos for the whole trip, which you can watch on the YouTube, each one. And I'm trying to film low key of everything. And finally, they give me this ticket and my passport back, and they say, okay, we got it, we go now. By this time, it's pitch black, it's nighttime, it's 2 hours after the ferry was supposed to leave. I said, it's still here? Oh, yes, it doesn't leave for a while. I said, what do you mean it doesn't leave for a while? Okay, anyways, we go and there's all these different gates, and these two guys are walking with me now. Two different, the guy whose original booking I had, and then his friend, his buddy, and they're all looking for tips at the end, so they help walk me through. But it's not like a customs exit, because I had to get an exit stamp for leaving Egypt, and then in Saudi you get the entrance stamp. But I left one gate. You have to walk the bike through, take all the bags off, put it through the X-ray machines, and like all this and that, and then they're grilling you about why you're here, what you're doing, and this guy's talking Arabic to the police guy. They all have rifles out there, all like AK-47s and military gear. So you go through all these different checkpoints, and then you go into this walking around. It's like a maze. It's like honestly like a loading dock, like a port where they load cargo ships and things. It's not like it's not a ferry terminal at all. It's big cargo ships, big like cargo ships that you'd see like in Captain Phillips type of thing. And all these back roads where like the cars will bring like security cars, this and that. They're walking me around this maze. Like, it's pitch black. There's nobody. This isn't a route that tourists take. Like, it's just these two guys walking me to this one office. And finally I'm in there and talking to the big head guy, I guess, and grilling me about all this. And he finally stamps me. And that stamp's almost like a ticket, golden ticket. Like, once you have the stamp on your passport, you can at least leave, right? Or once you get it stamped, you're in the country. So once I got the stamp, I knew, okay, at least I have proof that I can leave Egypt now. And then they walk me again back, and they get to this point where they can't go any further. They say, show that guy, and you're good. And it's cost me this much, though. They all want a tip. I just said, whatever, just take it, go. And yeah, so then I just ride my bike to the edge, and he says, that's your boat. It was the Poseidon or something. Poseidon, very last one, Poseidon. And it's a big, literally a cargo ship. The whole bottom opens up, and then trucks and things drive in, but it's 3 times the size of a ferry in Canada, like way bigger than the Victoria ferries. It's just a big, huge cargo ship. And then you go in there and you're supposed to go straight in. So I go up to the back there and the guy says, there's no trucks, nothing's in it. But I remember this time it's supposed to have left 2 hours before this, allegedly on the ticket. And there's one guy sitting on the back. I said, hey, I'm here for the ferry. He's like, okay, yeah. Well, we'll load you in about an hour. So I said, okay. So I go sit on the side and just watch like all the trucks start to come up and all this. And then the trucks load in or actually the trucks didn't load in. I was just waiting there. There's dogs, wild dogs running around the loading bay, and like other people started to move in a bit and they'd wait on the side. And then after an hour, the guy on the boat, like a captain or something, came over and said, is this your name? I said, yeah. I said, okay, you can come. So we go on the boat, and he says, you have to leave your bike down here, tie it up. And they're grabbing it by the disc on the back and the little spokes. I'm just trying to get them to be careful with it because I need that to move, right? And it's nerve-wracking. They say it has to be left here. So by this point, there's no other vehicles on, just the bike. And they say, okay, go upstairs and wait till we leave. And I said, okay, like how long are we leaving in? He said, well, you're leaving in 8 hours. Leaving in 8 hours? Or 6 hours. Leaving in 6 hours. And I said, how long is the ferry? It was supposed to be a 4-hour ferry. It's 8 hours to cross the Red Sea. So now by this point, I'm getting there the next day when I was supposed to get there late at midnight. Now I'm supposed to get there at like 1 or 2 p.m. the next day, like almost a full 24 hours later, or 12. So like 18 hours later or whatever it is. So I'm just saying, okay, whatever. So I go upstairs and just having a little tuna cans and chips that I can eat. And I just sat in this chair and waited for like 6 hours. And then I went back down before we left to check the bike to make sure it was on. By that point, all the trucks were on, all these trucks. And there wasn't very many passengers, maybe like 30, 40 passengers on the whole boat, if that. And the rest is just these truck drivers. And then finally, like, they closed everything up. I saw the manifest of the boat too. Every single name is Arabic, and mine was the only English name. I'm the only white person on the whole boat. So I made sure the bike was like set fine, and they closed everything up. And by the time we actually finally set off to leave, it was morning time now. So it was supposed to leave at like 7 or 8 p.m. the night before. And by this point, it's like 8 a.m. and it finally leaves. And then we have an 8-hour ferry. So, we get there in the afternoon sometime. But I remember heading off and finally seeing, once the boat started moving, you finally say, okay, well, Egypt is done now. It's like you have all these, it's almost like carrying bricks on your back, and each country you check off. It's like you take a brick off. It's like you don't have to worry about that one anymore. You've thought about all these things so much and got the visas ready and the planning and in and out and this and that. And then finally you can just say, okay, I'm done with that one. I don't have to think about that one anymore. Like, it's literally leaving behind me. So this ferry went from Safaga and it went directly horizontal across the Red Sea to Duba. And it was, like I said, an 8-hour ferry. And I remember it was super hot on the deck, and I got some videos leaving. And then I was just thinking, I may as well try and sleep because I didn't really get any sleep. So I went in one of the hallways. There's no beds or anything or any cabins, nothing like that. There's a little sitting area, but I was in one of the hallways, and they had like a curtain rod and a curtain over one of the windows, and I took the curtain rod off and used the curtain as a blanket on the ground and my camera bag on my head to rest on. And I just slept for a few hours and would get out and look at the sea. It's a deep blue Red Sea. It's like a deep dark blue when you're out in the middle, but it's so hot. And you crossed it, and then I remember about 8 hours later you're coming in and you see Saudi as you're entering, and it's just all sand and they had a tugboat coming in that would bring us into shore. And then, like I said, I'll go over Saudi in its own video. This is just the first episode of this podcast. I'll do one on each of the days, each of the countries I went through. So this was just Egypt. But once I got on that ferry and headed across, that was basically the end of Egypt. And And we got into Saudi that next day, and then Saudi was its own issues and stories. But
As you were going through this shipping over and trying to get over to Saudi and all the stress and everything else at the time, it's kind of overwhelming. But now that it's over and you look back, does it not make a really good story? Like,
yeah, there's
huh?
lots of story. That's what I said. If you do a trip like this, you're guaranteed you're going to have stories and things. You just don't know what they're going to be, right? It's like there's so many. It's like if you're at home and you go through your normal day of life and you're busy, but there's a lot of downtime in a normal day. Those days are always full. From the minute you get up, you have a job to do and to move forward. You're the one that has to move yourself forward, and there's always a problem, and there's always and footage, an angle, or a person you meet, or an issue you have to solve, or a hill you have to climb, or rain, or there's always something. From the minute you start, it's very like people say, "Oh, how was your vacation in Africa?" It's like I was working harder on this vacation than I've ever worked in my whole life, right? Like it's not a vacation at all. It's grueling work all day long, every day. It's enjoyable, but you earn every pedal stroke you take,
Mm-hmm.
right? So Egypt was good. Like if I was going through Sudan like I was hoping to, it would have been longer in Egypt because I only was like maybe the first half of the country. Then I cut across to Saudi. And then obviously Saudi was like 3 times as long as I spent in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have been like more time in Egypt. But since it was only those 500 and whatever 36 kilometers I had to do in Egypt, I was done it in 3 days, and it was nice to spend that week before with you guys. But yeah, lots of memories. It was very surreal being in the pyramids, but yeah, leaving that and then thinking later on to where I was in Cape Town just feels like a completely different trip. Thinking that it was the same trip that I started in Egypt, like
Mm-hmm.
thinking back now, it was crazy how long it was to yeah, Egypt was ago. It was like and you go through so much. Like if you think about, let's say, a normal training week, if you're a professional athlete, it's probably going to be around 20 hours. As your full-time job as a training, physical training hours are probably around 20 in a week, let's say. So what's that, around 2-3 hours a day, let's say 3 hours a day. On a trip like this, you're doing what, anywhere from 6 to 12 hours a day of cycling, right? So you're going through like a whole month's worth of training within a week almost, right? And then within a month, you're doing a couple months worth of training. Like a trip like this condensing, it's almost like expedited living. Like it's the same with a ultra, like a running Moab 240, let's say, if it's takes you 100 hours to do and you train 20 hours a week for a month, that's more than a month's worth of activity forced into 2-3 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like it's all a 3 day experience. It feels like it's a month long experience because you're still doing that amount of time, but it's just condensed into a smaller period. So even though Egypt was only 3 days of riding and a week of being there, it
Mm-hmm.
felt like it'd been, I'd done so much. You've seen the pyramids, you've had to deal with finding the bike and losing the bike and putting it together and figuring out the language and finding out where to go and dealing with all these things. And
It forces you to be conscious, real conscious in the moment.
yeah,
Huh?
you have to think day by day. You can't think too far ahead. Obviously, you have to think like I thought, oh, I have the fair in a couple of days. I have to get there, but in order to get there, I have to get through today first. And to get through today, I have to start. And once I start, what's going to come across? You figure out, and you never know what you're going to see. I remember seeing the day I got on the second day attacked by those dogs running after me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I saw probably 3 or 4 dead dogs on the side of the road. Whereas like in America and Canada, you think those are your puppies and you're in their house and this and that, but you just realize out there, there's just life is cheap. It's just dead on the side of the road, and people go on as their day goes, just go by, and you realize that could easily be you if you don't pay attention, you're not diligent, and you're not competent in a situation. So yeah, you really do have to be focused right on what's in front of you, and that's how it's a lot of little moments that make up a big moment like that, finishing a trip like that. So you really do take it day by day and step by step. But yeah, you never know what's going to happen. That was the one lesson I learned in Africa was nothing happens online. After that, I never tried doing anything online or card payments, or it was all cash and it was all done in person and in front of you, right? So yeah, it was just a learning experience. Nothing in Africa happens on the time frame you'd expect it to, but that first part of Egypt and crossing the Red Sea, and then I'll talk about it in the Saudi one, but going through Saudi and then getting back into Africa, that was a big stress for me because you never knew. It relied on other people more so. Whereas when I was back in Djibouti and all I had to do was go from Djibouti to South Africa, although I had to cross borders still, it was up to me how fast I went, how much I did each day and all that, right? So, but yeah, it was nice to have that first Egypt checked off. Yeah, around, like I said, 500, 550-ish kilometers that first couple days. And then, yeah, headed over to Saudi. So, yeah, that was,
A lot of people would think that that one journey, Egypt, was a lifetime thing. That was enough. But
yeah.
the whole of Africa is pretty
Yeah, and then you look at yourself
overwhelming.
too on a map. It's always, you never should, but you always do look at, oh, where am I and how far do I have to go? And it's just like
Yeah,
disheartening almost. You've gone 500K out of 11,000, and
yeah.
yeah, you're not
That's
even a 20th of the way there yet. But like lots of people's bike treks are 1,000K, and that's their whole trip, right? So if I was doing America again, 500K would be, a tenth of the way or 1/11th of the way there. Whereas this was twice as long as any trek I'd done. So yeah, it was definitely, again, you feel like you've been in it a couple days, but you don't, you know, you're very green still, very new on the journey still.
so you would definitely advise people to stay away from looking at the destination, getting fixated on finishing.
Yeah, it's good to have that goal of the finish. So obviously, that's why you start, and it has to be intrinsic for everybody else. Like for me, it's just passion, and I like to be good at something. I'm not the best at a lot of things, but this makes sense to me. It's like relatively simple to start and cycle all day and finish. And if you keep doing that day after day, you'll be successful. It doesn't make it easy, but it's relatively simple what you have to do. Same with all this ultra stuff. And for me, it's nice to be good at that. It makes sense to me logically, and to think that I could be in danger cycling and what all the dangers we talked about, but I still each day after day get up and get on the road and do it means I have a passion enough for it. Whereas like back home, if I was working a job but I don't really want to do too much, it's like you got to pull yourself out of bed and like you're almost miserable going through the days. Whereas here is you have so much passion, you're willing to put yourself in a risky situation just to achieve the goal you have. So that's the intrinsic stuff. It's like I'm not doing it for Instagram. It's nice to, again, share it with people like that, but I'm not, if I had to do it without cameras, I'd do it, right? I'd rather have the experience for myself than to not have it at all or to do it for cameras and stuff. So you really have to figure out why it's important to you, and then it's important to have that goal and know why you're doing it, and to have an idea of what you're doing, and to have a plan. But yeah, you really can't take it more than one day at a time. And even one day at a time is a lot. Like sometimes you have to take it kilometer by kilometer or like hour by hour, just section by section, right? So yeah, it's yeah, especially with those headwinds, it's tough. Like you really do go hour by hour just fighting to get through. That's where your training comes in, your preparation. So yeah, it's just a different type of learning than classroom, but it's still.
So if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I've done business stuff and I've done lots of different jobs, but this is what makes me feel passionate about it. And it's like I said, the project isn't just from the start date to the end date. It was from the months before when you think about it, and when you have to get your vaccines and you have to start planning and you book the flights and you book your routes and the hotels and you get things set up. And talk to people who have done it before, talk to Mark Beaumont, talk about, different things. And, it's all part of the whole process, and what goes into reflecting on it each day and each night. And lots don't do that because it's a lot more work to do, but I find it's important to be able to look back and feel exactly how I felt on that in that moment. And you're not, bullshitting yourself about, I was tough in this moment, when you were, almost in tears that things were so hard or things are going wrong. And like, you keep yourself honest when you write about it right away, right? Or you take videos right away about it. So yeah, I like having that and looking back at it and being able to share it with people. But it's always on my mind everywhere I go. Everything I do, I'm always, if I have an idea in my head and I want to make it happen, it never really leaves me. So it's just it's better off to go after it and make a solid plan and prepare properly and do it than it is to just leave it in my head bouncing around, because then I'm always preoccupied or distracted, or not living in
Do
the
you feel
moment.
you're much different from other adventurers?
I feel like other people might be better off at a singular event. Like, there's definitely better ultra runners than me. Mark Beaumont is a better ultra cyclist, like ultra swimmers that just swim. But I think versatility wise, I'm unique in the way that I can do all these at a high level, and not just at a high level like an Ironman or something where it's like a planned race course and like it's controlled more. So it's like I can do all these at a pretty high level where it's environmental challenges, and there's no guarantees on how things are going to go, and putting myself out there, even if I fail, to put myself out publicly and try again to go after it. And then also versatility with the base jumping and things like that on the adrenaline side of things. But I try and be the most versatile. I want to be able to take on any situation and any environment, if it's climbing in the cold or cycling in the heat, running in the heat, or in the snow, in the jungle, and drop me anywhere in the world. I want to be able to be versatile and be competent in that.
I think it's amazing, but I think all us humans are trying to feel confident that we'll fare out in life, right? And here you're doing these amazing things and just faring out and becomes almost natural to you. So
Yeah, but like, it's important to realize I didn't start there. I didn't start as a cycling across Africa. I did my very first endurance event was a sprint triathlon, and I didn't win it. I just made it through, and I'm trying to put my socks on my shoes and running in my shoes and slip and fall. And it's like, you didn't start there, right? I remember doing my first runs around the track and feeling, after baseball, when I finished playing baseball, and feeling like, oh, I feel like my knees are going to tear. And but you just keep doing it and you get better and you keep trying things is a thing. I think that's the whole comfort, breeze, complacency thing, is you're not never going to arrive at the point you get to. There's no, even when I finished, and I'll talk about that more when I get to the South Africa one, but when I finished my ride, it wasn't what I expected it to be. It wasn't like it was, I don't know, it was just, it felt like another day almost, right? It's just, you realize looking back and doing things like this, when you think about all the memories and all the things that you've been through, that's when it kind of floods back. But like, in that moment when you finish, it's almost just like another day you've gone. Like, you're just so focused on solving problems that was the last problem to solve for this thing. But it's not like you die on the spot and life's over. Like, you have to keep living. Like, you have to come home and integrate back into life and do different things, right? But I'll talk about all that once I get to the South Africa one and that. But yeah, it was just good to keep doing things. Like I said, comfort, breeds, complacency is my motto, and I like to make my previous highs my new baselines. Like in Africa, or in Mexico, my 5,789 kilometers was that trip. And if you make that your baseline and build upon it, like I said, I did double this time. This trip was 10,316 kilometers. So it was, yeah, good to just keep building and keep holding yourself accountable and growing and learning and to me, this is how I learn. I learn more on a trip like this than I did in any years of school at university, and just more about the world and more about what you have as privilege in North America and Canada, and how other people are humans, but they don't have the same luxuries. So
Most of our living here in North America is really convenient.
yeah,
You go on a trip like that, there's no convenience.
yeah, yeah. But it is definitely different solo for sure. That's one thing. It's like you can have all the support in the world from people back home online, but you're the only one out there. Like you're really alone when you're out there for sure if you're doing it solo. So there's just not too many are doing like solo trips. I don't think. Like some are, but it's few and far between that are going completely solo without a camera crew, uh, without any support, without a crew chief, without any connection. So
Yeah, it's hard to film and do. You know what I mean? And then to film the natural reality of the moment instead of going back and setting up and then filming it in the secondary try. Just the natural moment is really hard.
yeah, it was definitely not easy, that's for sure. But trying to give people a bit of a insight as to the behind the scenes of it all, because like I said, you try and fit all these. We've been talking almost 2 hours here, and you try and fit all that into a whatever 15, 20, 30-minute video. It's hard to do, right? So that's why I want to go through all these countries one by one. So this is the first one on Egypt, and I'm happy you were able to sit in for it. I'm glad you guys got to come out to Egypt and experience that with me. And yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have missed it for the world. It was a dream, and it's a dream that came true because of you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the support.
Anytime, I'm on board.
Yeah. Well, that's episode 17, Comfort Breeds Complacency. This is my Egypt recap, and I'll come back with one on Saudi Arabia next, and then we'll go through all the countries of Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya, my Kilimanjaro climb, Tanzania, Zambia, Botswana, and South Africa. So be another bit of a series here, probably like 10 podcasts will come out on this one, but yeah, stay tuned for those, and my Moab 240 race coming up in 2 and a bit weeks. So yeah, stay tuned on my Instagram and everything for that, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Keep her not so bad.